Wow, what a nice introduction. That was lovely. Thank you, Sanjay. That's a really lovely way to start my morning. And you're a great crowd here this morning. How's everybody doing? Excited? Energized? It's Friday, which is good. I'm going to out Sanjay a little bit. He's, because he's kind of the king of cool, I can tell that already, just talking to him a little bit. And I love the stories about your children, by the way. That was very nice. It really personalizes what this means to you, so thank you. And but he was telling me, he said, I wear jeans around the office a lot. And but that's the culture that you're in, right? And so I'm very jealous, by the way. I wish I could do that too. But I think it's really all about the work that you're doing that is so transformative. And it's less about what we wear and more about who we are and what we bring. So I loved you sharing that. Thank you. So good morning, everyone. Nani, Bojo. Thank you again, Sanjay, for that kind introduction. And merci, Sanjay, et chers amis. Je suis ravie d'être ici avec vous tous. I want to thank Elder Waters for being here today and thank her for her beautiful blessing and invocation. It's such an awesome opportunity to start these conversations and being grounded in the reality of thanks and gratitude. So we thank you for that beautiful invocation. I want to personally express my respect on behalf of all of us and acknowledge that Toronto is located on the traditional territory of Indigenous people dating back countless generations. I want to honor the contributions of our Indigenous people today and always and recognize the role that treaty making has in what is now Ontario. Chimigwech, thank you. Alors, bienvenue à vous tous au tout premier sommet sur l'inclusion numérique de l'Ontario. Welcome everyone to Ontario's first ever Digital Inclusion Summit. I'd like to thank our friends at the Public Policy Forum. So thank you, Sarah, very much for your kind introduction and opening remarks and for hosting this important event and conversation today. I'm thrilled to join you here and I'm looking forward to diving in on this file. New to me as I took on the job of President of the Treasury Board and Minister responsible for digital government just a few short weeks ago. I'm excited about this new responsibility. And when you take on this kind of task, it's comforting to know that the day-to-day responsibilities are in very capable hands indeed. So I want to give a shout out to Hillary Hartley. Where's Hillary? Where is she? There she is. Hillary's a bit of a rock star. Yeah. Don't know if you've met her or not. You can kill me later, Hillary. It's okay. Hillary's my deputy minister, but she's more than that. She's a leader. She's inclusive. She's she's an innovator and a collaborator, and she's incredibly talented. And for those of you that haven't met Hillary, I think she's speaking later on. She used to run 18F, which was the U.S. government's digital office, and we are incredibly, incredibly fortunate to have her here. We're lucky that she came to Ontario, and we want to thank you, Hillary. I want to thank you very much for everything you do and everything you are doing to transform the way that our government interfaces and serves the public in Ontario. So thank you. Shout out to Hillary. You can clap. It's okay. So it's a special privilege in this new role to join you today and to talk about a topic that means a lot to me. As a human being, as a woman, as an elected official whose job it is to represent the diverse needs of people right across Ontario. Suis-je la seule ou sommes-nous tous d'accord? Can we all agree? It's about time that we started a conversation on digital inclusion. Les technologies évoluent à la vitesse de l'éclair. Technologies are evolving at lightning speed, almost faster than we can adapt. I don't think I need to tell anybody in this audience that. And that's having an indelible impact on our lives. In fact, it's hard to imagine a world without a search engine in it. Think about it. I mean, the signs of the fourth industrial revolution are all around us. They're here. And it's not just in our Twitter feeds. There's not a day that goes by that I don't see or hear a story about AI, machine learning, robotics, 3D printing, autonomous vehicles, In my previous role, as Sanjay mentioned, I was Minister of Tourism, Culture and Sport. I was responsible for the film and television sector, and that included interactive digital media and post-digital effects and all of those things. Blockchain, just an incredible and breathtaking array of fast-moving developments. So here's the thing. As our society and economy become more digitized, some Ontarians are struggling to keep up. Not everybody is taking part in that digital revolution in the way that we all want and need them to be. Some folks feel unprepared, some are anxious about what all this means and feel themselves getting further and further behind. Not everyone is benefiting, in short, from the changes taking place. According to Stats Canada and the CRTC, while 98% of Ontario households are in areas served by at least basic broadband internet, up to 10 megabits per second, only 62% of low-income households have access at home. As an aside, that's why in my previous responsibility as the minister responsible for libraries, we took such pride in investing in digital resources and access to them across the province because, as some of you will know, if you live in a rural or remote area, the only place that you can get this kind of service is going to your library. So libraries have become, in the digital age, lots of people thought they were going to see their sunset of their lives, but they've actually had this renewed sense of purpose, and it's great. And so our government has invested heavily in equality of access of opportunity through our libraries. I'm very proud of that. So the truth is that those who have proper access to the internet and have the digital skills and opportunities to participate in the digital economy will continue to benefit, and that's good for them and for all of us. But those who face barriers to access, who are not empowered with digital skills, or who are unable to effectively apply technologies to support their daily lives, they're sliding behind. Eventually, when there's nowhere left for them to go, those people could be left behind. Enfin, ce n'est pas le cas. Not on our watch. This is not going to happen. In Ontario, we believe that no matter who you are or where you live in this province, every person deserves a fair shot at success. Equality and equality of access to opportunity is, I would argue, a human right. And looking at digital inclusion through this broader lens, it seems to me, affords us the opportunity to bring a more expansive approach to solving these important issues. Inherently, we believe that it's government's job to listen and to lead. And when there's a challenge that we can tackle together, these two things work together. But we can't do it alone. Habiliter tous les Ontariens et Ontariennes dans une société numérique est une mission qui en vaut la peine. Empowering all Ontarians in a digital society is a mission worth fighting for. Because as you all know so well, if we sit still, the gap will continue to grow, and the cost of doing nothing is simply too high. Some of our most vulnerable people will not have their voices heard, and more communities will be digitally excluded, whether that's because of geography, lack of purchasing power, education, mobility, or other complex social factors. I, for one, am not okay with that, and I don't think you are either. And I think that's why we're all here today, because the work that will be made possible through this summit, the collaboration that lies ahead, the ideas that will be discussed and shared. I have a saying from my time in the non-for-profit sector. I ran a non-for-profit, and I spent some time at the United Way, and we used to call it R&D, rip off and duplicate. So I know that doesn't work well at Bell, Sanjay. I know, I'm sorry. I know. But I'm just saying that R&D is very much alive and well in forests such as these, where people are sharing best practices to really important societal solutions, and it takes government and the private sector and the parapublic sector and folks like the PPF to bring us together to have these conversations. So we're starting a bigger dialogue in digital inclusion, and there will be tough but important questions, including what are the gaps and barriers that people face. Probably starts there. Identification of the problem is a good first step. How can these be overcome? How can we use digital technologies to empower people? How can government help level the playing field? And of course, answers won't come overnight, and maybe not even at the end of today. Mais ce sommet est un début, un bon début. This summit is a great start, our first collective step forward together towards a collaborative set of actions that will ensure that people have the basic digital skills they need to succeed in a 21st century workforce, that they have affordable access to the internet, including free access in public places. Hooray. And people have the knowledge and know-how to effectively and safely use digital technologies in their lives. You know, the benefits of broader access are clear and include not just enhancing equality of opportunity, which is an imperative we all share, but a better informed and higher educated workforce, both of which have emerged as key competitive strengths for our jurisdictions. I mean, you only have to look at our bid for Amazon HQ2, and what has emerged in that conversation, in that process, is that Ontario has an enviable and highly educated workforce, and that is a key strength. So we all know about the benefits of digital inclusion. And so to demonstrate our commitment to this important work that we're all interested in doing together, I'm proud to announce here that we, the Ontario government, are partnering with the Brookfield Institute on a new digital literacy and coding pilot project that will test a new model for building digital skills amongst our young people from groups who are typically underrepresented in STEM, or of course, science, technology, engineering, and math. And so, le projet STEM permettra 12 à 15 ans les enfants de faire participer ces jeunes afin d'améliorer leur accès aux compétences numériques. Et bien sûr, cela va les préparer à l'évolution du monde du travail. So, this pilot will engage young people between the ages of 12 to 15 to improve access to digital skills that can help prepare them for the changing nature of work and help enhance our competitiveness as a society. So we are very proud to announce this pilot today. It wouldn't be possible without the partnership of community organizations in the spirit of collaboration, like the Boys and Girls Clubs of Canada, the Toronto Public Library, and the place we're all gathered in today, the YMCA. So thank you all for your partnership. This is a very exciting endeavor. Yes, you can clap. We'll have more details to share in the coming weeks, but I'm very pleased to announce this partnership to all of you today. I'm excited to see what those young minds will do when we unleash the power of digital technologies to serve a public good, because I wholeheartedly believe, as I know you do too, that when our young people succeed, we all do. Young people are just one segment of the population who are most vulnerable in an age of increasing automation and digital interaction. And so our task becomes ensuring that everyone has the access and skills they need to succeed, and ensuring everyone can be safe on the web, including maintaining privacy, is also a vital priority as more of our lives happen online. So I'd like to issue a challenge that we all take these tasks on boldly. Let's be bold together. Today's discussion is part of a broader global one, where we are talking about who's being served by technology, how it is being designed, and what problems are we trying to solve. And if, you know, it's an important example of the open and honest discussion we must have if working together we're going to tackle these issues. I want to highlight the example of Mayen Ziv. As a person in a motorized wheelchair, Mayun wanted to know which restaurants and public places were physically accessible. There was no one place to check this information online. No one had designed an app. There was no app for that in a sea of millions of apps. So Mayun created Access Now, an online map which thousands of people have used to rate the accessibility of over 22,000 restaurants, stores, hotels, and offices. She created a technology that serves the common good, and we all need more of that. You know, I can see there are a lot of passionate, committed people in this room. For some of you, this is your life's work. You've been on the ground in communities and bringing attention to this issue of inclusion, accessibility, and the uneven distribution of opportunities. You've been bridging the gap across sectors to ensure that Ontarians can fully participate in our society, our economy, and our democracy. And so, you're deserving of our thanks. And on behalf of our government, on behalf of our Premier Kathleen Wynne, I want to thank you all for your relentless drive and your tenacity and hard work. You are on the cusp of change. And when you are driving change, it takes a relentless and determined and energetic approach. So thank you for all of that and for making our province a more inclusive place to live. I want you to know that we too believe that no one should be left behind as the digital age accelerates around us. The gap is real, so let's confront it. Let's create the conditions for everyone to thrive in our digital society and together build a fair and inclusive Ontario. I want to close with an anecdote. I was at the Toronto Board of Trade dinner last night. I don't know if any of you were there, but the keynote speech was by Dan Doctoroff, who's the CEO of Sidewalk Labs. Many of you will be familiar with Sidewalk Labs. And he talked about, he's a very inspiring speaker, and he talked about how the approach that Sidewalk Labs is taking in their great experiment here in Toronto. And by the way, Toronto was a city that they chose after a global competition and search. And that endeavor will focus on a couple of things that have resonance, I think, in the conversations you're going to have today. He talked about how data-driven approaches will help solve seemingly intractable problems. He talked about the importance of public and private sector partnerships with an acknowledgement that government has a key role to play given the importance of these issues in people's lives. He talked about the importance of embracing diversity and inclusivity that have emerged as key competitive advantages for Toronto and indeed all of Ontario. He talked about how they are approaching this task via a process that's focused on open digital infrastructure in a true innovation hub approach. And they're putting their money where their mouth is. They put $50 million on the line. That's how strongly they believe that this is an opportunity to tackle important societal issues and share the results. He closed by highlighting, once again, a key strength inherent in our culture, inclusivity. Citing Toronto as a beacon of opportunity and noting the power of innovation when applied responsibly. Which brings me back to our discussion and your discussion today, and the tasks that lie in front of us all, tackling digital inclusion, ensuring equality of access of opportunity, and of course, civic engagement, which is very important. I've always believed, I'm relatively new to public life, that attracting good people to public life and as public servants is incredibly important, and the next generation and civic engagement are very much a part of what you're talking about today. So I want to thank you all. I want to thank you for your commitment and your passion and your work in this regard. I look forward to the outcome of today's discussion. A big thank you again to the Public Policy Forum, to my friend Ed Greenspan, who I've known for many, many years. One of the most thoughtful people I know. And I want to thank you all for your invitation today. It meant a lot to me. It's a great way for me to begin this task. And again, I look forward to the outcome of your discussions. Thank you. Chimigwech. Merci.
Thank you, Minister, and thank you for your time. I know that you do have to slip out, so I can give you an opportunity to slip out because they've been warning me that you have to go. But you referred to Hillary as a rock star, so I could call her the Chief Digital Officer, I could call her the Deputy Minister, but rock stars are just known like Hillary. So, Hillary.
Well, even rock stars get sick, and I apologize. I'm going to have to talk right into the mic so that you can hear me today. I am very excited to be here and very excited to see this event finally coming together. It's been, thank you, Minister McMahon. Thank you for your words. Just so that you all know, she's new to this file, she's new to this position. At our first meeting with her, we let her know that this event was coming up very, very soon, and would she like to be involved? And she said, yes, let's make it happen. So thank you. Thank you for being here. This event's been in the work for a long time. I think it was getting started even before I came to Ontario. So thanks to everybody on my team, to Matthew, to Katie, to Tanya, to Famita. Thanks to the Public Policy Forum for your leadership and for spearheading this. And I'm very, very happy to be here to help kick off the summit today. This is a big deal. So thank you. Thank you all for being here. Inclusion is, it's a goal that we pursue not because there are rules and laws about diversity and inclusion, but because it's the right thing to do. Something we want to do because we believe in it. We value inclusion as something that makes us stronger, smarter, and better. When we embrace it, we begin to value human beings in a whole new way. We're signaling that everyone belongs, that everyone has worth. And so this is incredibly relevant to just about every piece of our work, of my work as a leader, not only of this remarkable team, but in the OPS. As some of you know, I get to lead this team called the Ontario Digital Service. This is us. We are a group, a skills collective, a group of nerds inside the cabinet office of the provincial government. A team of designers, of product people, of developers, of user research, people who are passionate about bringing technology to government, working with ministries to improve the user experience of government. I've used this phrase, sort of center of gravity. We're the center of gravity for the public service, for digital expertise and support, a place where we've been given the license, the freedom to experiment. We can have new approaches to government's big problems, and we're delivering products and services on the web. I always hit the wrong button. This is our mission. It's pretty simple. We are here to help make government simpler, faster, and better for the people and businesses of Ontario. We're working really to bring about big transformation inside our organization, inside the ODS, inside the public service, so that people outside can experience government changing, so that hopefully it starts to feel different. Digital inclusion, again, sort of that notion of ensuring that everyone can benefit from digital technologies in their lives is core to that work. That's why we're very excited to be here, to be moving this conversation forward via this forum, to confront some hard truths and challenge ourselves and each other to do better. I mentioned user-centered design. A lot of our work kind of focuses on that, on bringing the people that are going to be interacting with government, using the things that we build to the center. And we believe in designing for the edges, because that means designing for everyone. We build inclusive, accessible services from the start, whether that's our main platform, ontario.ca, which is visited by millions of Ontarians every week, or whether it's working with a ministry on a smaller project or a smaller product. We try to bring those practices to the heart of our work so that our partners start to see that approach in a different way. And we've launched something called the Digital Service Standard. It's essentially 14 points that lay out the path to what we believe can be a great digital service. Those 14 points include things like bring the right team together, understand the user need. Number 14 is actually test with the minister. At each phase of your development, make sure your top stakeholder, your minister, your deputy minister, knows what you're working on and your path forward. Our goal as a digital delivery organization is to ensure that government remains relentlessly focused on our users, on those user needs, and ensures that online services are inclusive, accessible, and usable by everyone. Whether that's a simple online calculator, a business process application, or the words themselves. Our content designers are among the most fearless in our office. They are in the trenches doing the hard work to make it simpler for people to find, use, and understand public information. We are, and I am incredibly proud of this work. Our team has set a very strong foundation. But we also know that, all of government, digital transformation, can't succeed if we don't address the issues of the agenda that are on the agenda here over the next 2 days. And, the simple truth of that matter is that our work in the public service helps to address collective action problems, and we provide goods and services to all people living across the province. We don't have just a single target market. We serve everyone. As more digital technologies become embedded into more aspects of our lives and more people's interactions with government happen online, new and important questions emerge and continue to emerge. For starters, who is really benefiting in this digital society, and who is left out altogether? We cannot be afraid to confront the elephant in the room, that not everyone is getting ahead thanks to the digital revolution. Divides persist across gender, age, income, ability, geography, just to name a few factors. We also know that we still don't know some things. The impact of this disruption is definitely not fully understood. We don't know the extent of exclusion that's happening, which brings us to today. We're all here to surface those barriers, figure out how to bust them, to wrestle with these hard questions. I know at ODS, we've been doing a lot of thinking about what needs to change, who needs to be engaged to bring about that change. As we start out on a path to design a cross-government strategy for how we can help achieve digital inclusion in Ontario. One of our core operating principles is to work out loud, to work in the open. So I'd love to share just a little bit about the 3 ingredients that we think are needed for people to thrive in a digital society. And I believe we blatantly stole them from someone you are about to hear from later today. But those 3 A's, access, adoption, and application. I would like to give a special shout out to Matthew Gray. Where's Matthew? Where were you? Oh, there, excellent. He is on our policy team and has been leading our efforts on inclusion. He has really helped me understand why we need to consider people's needs across all 3 areas, what this framework really means, and how we're going to use it if we're going to close the gap. And we invite your feedback on these focus areas, on these questions. We would love to hear from you, and I hope that again, this sparks some conversation throughout the next 2 days. But we'll start with access. Do people have access to high quality and affordable internet all over Ontario? I think we know the answer to that. I think we even know the answer to that just in Toronto or the GTA alone. But what about in public spaces, public places? Are free connections available? Do people have access to inclusively designed technologies that anyone can use? When it comes to adopting digital technologies and services, what about skills? Do people have the knowledge and skills to use digital technologies to access, create, and share knowledge and information? Safety and privacy are crucial here as well. Are these important elements being considered in the most effective ways? Digital application. Application is about looking at what tech, who benefits, and how. Can people, again, use digital technologies, content, services to access learning, to take care of their health, engage with their government, and so on? What gaps, what barriers, what challenges need to be overcome to ensure that every Ontarian can benefit from digital technologies in their lives? Are people empowered to create and use digital technologies that improve on-the-ground outcomes? As the minister said, empowering people in a digital society is a mission worth fighting for. closing the gap, working toward greater inclusion is absolutely the right thing to do. And being here, for me, shows that we all are committing to inclusion. And I know that we all know there is more to do. So please challenge us. Hold us accountable as champions of inclusion. And most of all, please work together with us. We need your expertise, your creativity, and your ideas to make big change happen. So once again, thank you for being here. And please enjoy the summit, enjoy these 2 days, and ask tough questions. Thanks. Sure.
So speaking of tough questions, you just told them to ask tough questions, and Hillary's agreed to take a couple of your questions. I noticed that there's one on Slido. There's also a mic in the room if you have some questions for Hillary. I think, yeah, you've got your microphone, Hillary? Okay. I'll start with the one that's available on Slido. What's the single biggest change your team has done since you've arrived that has had an impact on people who use services?
The single biggest change that's had an impact on how people use services. We just talk a lot about fundamentals. We talk a lot about user needs, about user-centered design, about service design, about sort of changing the way that the public service is thinking about and approaching our big challenges and our big problems, so that we're not starting with assumptions and we're not starting with a solution in mind, but that we are going to go and do discovery. Discovery, it can be a lot of different things, but I'm here to tell you that not just the Ontario government, but a lot of governments don't do discovery the way that we do it, and possibly in the private sector if we're building an app or we're building a product or anything like that. And so that focus on discovery, on user research, on do you understand the user need that you're about to build something for? We, in government, we're very customer focused. We think we are focused on our users. It's just a shift in mentality. It's a shift in almost the words and the semantics about being user focused. Because customer service is one thing, but saying, are we actually delivering on what you're trying to accomplish is different. And I think that's probably the kernel of it.
Excellent. We'll go to a question in the room if there are any. Yes, right up in front. Oh, okay, we'll come up to you afterwards in front. We'll go back first.
Terrific. Thank you very much, and congratulations on your appointment. Delighted to have a Chief Digital Officer in the province of Ontario, and wonderful to hear from the Minister about how committed she is to inclusion, and obviously everyone in this room. A big part of your success, as you and I have briefly chatted about, will be the degree to which we're able to address the very hidden and very seldom spoken about issue of adult literacy proficiency in the province of Ontario. As you're well aware, I know, the OECD released data a couple of years ago that demonstrates that at least 17% of us in Ontario and a full 40% of us don't have the literacy skills that are necessary and the foundation for adult literacy, for digital literacy skills. That was a surprise to me. I'm a former chair of the Toronto Public Library Board. I run national and international nonprofit organizations. This issue was so hidden that I was unaware of the significance of it. And I do know the Government of Ontario is embracing a transformation of the literacy program, the adult literacy program, but I know that you will be able to take this into account, and I do think that this will be defining in terms of world leadership if we ensure that we've got the foundation so that we can ensure the accessibility, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jillian. Just as we bring the mic up front, what's the difference in terms of applying your model, the framework, in rural Ontario? If you could talk a bit about more remote communities.
I am going to defer that question because I think Angela, who you're going to hear from, is much better equipped to speak to that coming from her work both in the States and in Ohio, but I hope that our team actually gets to learn from her about how they are thinking about this framework and how it plays out both in kind of more dense areas and in rural and remote areas. But I think in general, our role right now is kind of twofold. It's a little bit of agitator and it's a little bit of champion, so that we can hopefully kind of draw some lines and connect some dots through ministries that are working kind of independently maybe on some things, so working with the Ministry of Infrastructure on broadband access, working with the Ministry of Children and Youth Services on income barriers and things like that. So really trying to take using the role of my office as a horizontal platform and trying to connect some of those dots. So I obviously did not answer that question, but I think that's a little bit of the role that we're playing just within the government.
Excellent. A question down in front.
Hi, Deputy Hartley. My name is Naroja. I'm with Service Ontario. I think it's great that we are championing, digital inclusion and digital best practices for what we offer to citizens. I just want to know who in the government is championing digital excellence and digital inclusion for applications that staff use. A lot of internal applications are still legacy systems. They're not modern, they're not necessarily user-friendly. So, who was championing that work and who was kind of accountable for that?
A great question, and it's something that we get asked a lot about because our initial mandate is very Ontario-facing. It's very public-facing. But that said, we are working with lots of different teams, kind of on a consultative basis, on internal tools and helping them take these kind of same ideas and practices to use them internally on projects as well. So I do believe that as the center of gravity, that we are that group in terms of hopefully any team in any ministry wanting to come to us to sort of understand how to push this forward, whether it's an internal tool or an external tool. You said you're with Service Ontario. I know that MGCS is thinking a lot about kind of digital transformation, what that means just for its own ministry. And we're here, again, just to sort of help be a team that can be that consultative group of experts, both that are trying to practice what we preach, but also trying to build tools and guides and frameworks and things that can let teams go and run and do kind of some self-service around this as well. So we're here for you, but we're eagerly looking forward to kind of finding those pockets in each ministry that are doing great work so that we can really just kind of shine a light on them and say, these folks are doing great work, let's help them and let's get them going.
Excellent. There was another question down in front, I believe right here. Oh, you're okay? It's been asked? Okay. One question at the back.
So my name is Louisa, and first of all, I really love the work that you are doing for Ontario. It's amazing, and your team. So my perspective is from the private sector. So as an entrepreneur myself, after I graduated, I started my own company, and I also want to do this public good through the company. So we started a platform called Milieu that, with the hope to aggregate people's comments and use those comments towards better built environment design and development. So the question that I have as from the perspective of private sector company is that how does the government plan on including more of the small scale companies into this change? Because the role that we play and the roles bigger companies like Google play is very different in this space.
Great question. One of the things that we are actively working on is actually a new vendor of record list to enable companies and teams that kind of quote unquote work like us to have an opportunity to get on this new VOR and do work with us and with ministries. And a big push for us is to make sure that it's maybe not just the big players that end up kind of on some of those lists over and over again, but to do some work and do some outreach to make sure that that there's a really great array of teams and of companies and of sort of delivery units available to do this work with us. So it's something that I am personally really passionate about, is really trying to figure out how do we widen the aperture of teams and of companies and of businesses that can and want to do business with us and with the government. And we've got some really interesting problems and partnerships that are kind of in our queue, and getting folks in to partner with us is absolutely the only way we'll get it all done. So it's something I'm really passionate about.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Hillary. As our chief agitator, I think that should be your new title. I think we have a lot of hope, and we have a lot of optimism for your mandate and for what you're doing for the province. So thank you so much for that.
Thanks for having me, folks.